going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Flyin podcast. It's full crew tonight. We got Ryan and Zach both with us. Boys, what a roller coaster of a week. You have a game last Saturday, and then you have a Wednesday game, and then a Saturday game, right? So no break at all for this FC Cincinnati squad. However, there were some new things going on with FC as we see Zach has a new canvas kit. Show the
Oh,
back there, Zach. Oh yeah,
woohoo.
Zach
Big
got the
old
new
Kubo.
Kubo jersey, baby.
Absolutely loving it. It actually fits pretty well. I was worried that the canvas, it's growing on me. I'm not going to lie. I'm starting to like it more and more, even more with the Kubo kanji on it.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think that back, that's one of the coolest things FC has done in a while. I was wishing that they would do that a little bit more often. The fact that they came out with that because I know they had tweeted it out. I think what only 150 made, right? Is that Zach? Is that
Something
right?
like that. Yeah. Maybe 120, even less. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were getting a lot of tweets about it. People were like, "We want this like so bad." So they came out with it. Ryan, any thoughts on the canvas kit that Zach's got?
When I first saw it, like my first impression was like, this is incredible that they like listen to the fans, and that's what it should be about. But I was pretty pumped just to kind of see a difference, in what we're typically seeing on these jerseys. I wanted to actually reach out to Kenta and ask him his opinion on it too, because I know we had chatted a little bit about jerseys in the past with him. But yeah, pretty cool all in all.
Yeah, I think the jersey obviously huge highlight of the week. But Zach, what were your impressions of kind of the week as it is? Very few rests for all these guys. What were your thoughts after the whole weekend so far?
Absolute scorcher of matches. I'll tell you what, I never sweated so much in my life. So I couldn't imagine what the players were going through. I mean, let alone I was playing, I play on Tuesday nights every night, and even 40 minutes, you look like you just got out of the shower. So even sitting down, not doing anything, it's tough. So got to give it to the players.
Yeah, Ryan, you kind of missed out on the two scorchers that Zach and I, attended on Wednesday and Saturday. How did you feel with the cool AC of a hospital room?
Yeah, so my wife delivered on Friday, but Wednesday night when we were there, I could kind of see TQL up the road. So that was really different perspective. I don't think I'd missed like two games in a row, honestly, in like 4 or 5 years. But the AC was nice, and I wasn't going to complain about that. I just wish I was at the game and supporting because let's be honest, guys, Wednesday's night game was just incredible. And while she's, going into labor and I'm like freaking out off to the side, like, do you see this game? Like, are you seeing this right now? And I don't know if it was helping or hurting. But we have a happy baby, and couldn't be more elated, for that big FC Cincinnati fan already. I'm sure she's going to be. But yeah, my impression, past that Saturday's game, we were just exhausted. I mean, emotionally, physically, a lot of guys picking up knocks. And then if you look at it, New England actually didn't even have a game on Wednesday. So I thought that was a little bit unfair in some ways, especially with how hot it was. Between that, I think we got an Alec Khan extension. So that was another big news of the week as well. So he's with the club until 2025. Just again, adding to this goalkeeper room. I think that means, Salentano is going to have a solid person for these multiple different tournaments to go to. If he's not playing in Leagues Cup, we have Can or Con, which I'm excited about. Sam, any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that's huge. I know once again to reiterate, we've talked about it multiple times on the pod, but having Bobby on really telling us about the goalkeeper room and this solidifies it even more because I know, coming into the winter, we were unsure of, contract situations. You see Evan Loro get an extension, and then we're kind of talking like, what does this mean for Alec Khan? Like, does that mean he's on the trade block? Does that free up, some room for us? And lo and behold, he is way too crucial for this FC Cincinnati team and the staff because he's like having another coach, like Bobby was saying. So very happy to have him until 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to think, I mean, Celentano's got to be getting some good looks from some bigger clubs, right? So he's good to have on the back, for whoever comes in and fills in. So he's there to support.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the key thing for me is just having consistency, and we've seen that over the past few seasons. I hope we can keep that going. It's unfortunately rough when you lose guys out of your control, with injury and whatnot, and we'll get to that later. But guys, for this game that we had, match day 18, at least on Wednesday, we had a 4-3 thrilling win against Philadelphia Union at home. That made us at the time 12-3-3. I'll kind of roll into my impressions for the start of the game. I felt like both teams were kind of trying to figure each other out. Not to be missed in this, but if you look back at preseason, Aaron Bupenza had this backfield goal that I think Pat Brennan had actually commented about pregame and said, look out for some, theatrics or fireworks between the two teams. I think we actually had more of the theatrics, the craziness, honestly, in Saturday's game more than we did Wednesday's with fouls and whatnot. But start of the game was kind of feeling each other out. We did get that goal, early on. Lucho plays just a perfectly weighted ball to Kelsey. Kelsey maybe gets a hair or two on it, but he redirects it in the goal. Zach, from your perspective, what did you see?
I'm not gonna lie, it kind of looked like it didn't even hit him, honestly. Like it just looked like it just kind of grazed him, or even really a Lucho goal versus a Kelsey. He barely had a little bit on it. So yeah, it's hard to tell from that far.
Yeah, this game was interesting. So my impressions right out of the gate were the back line of I was telling Zach this. I sat down, we saw the lineup and I looked at him. I was like, I mean, this is all kind of standard. Miazga's out. We put Hagglund in. It's kind of like the back line that we thought. However, they had Kip Keller as the main center back. And I thought that was very interesting because we know that Hagglund, as even just with Miazga or Robinson or whoever's in the back, he could be somewhat of a liability out wide as that right or left center back because he's not as quick. He doesn't have the speed. He's very physical, but he doesn't have the speed. So I thought that was interesting to put a guy like Keller, who is faster than Hagglund and can track back a little bit more, right in the middle there. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So this is we're doing a whole new. I wasn't here the last time we did this, so this is a new like format we're doing. So we're doing lineup impressions, start of the game, middle, end. I love it. So really, I'm just gonna give you my lineup impressions, and then maybe like the first bit of the game. Um, Starting out, you could tell from the lineup there was going to be some backline woes. Like I felt like it was pretty clear, that starting lineup was a little questionable. You knew what it meant on paper, but you didn't really fully understand the extent until you saw it on the field. Like it's completely different. I guess you could just say vibes or mood, on the field. The communication seems off, right? Very quiet first, 30 minutes or so from what I could tell. Both Cincinnati and the Union, they're playing it safe to understand each other. It's always so fun to see us play the Union because Albright and Pat always have something, against each other, but they want to be the ones who win the match, and you could tell, it's a chess match at that beginning. See who makes the first mistake, see where that gap is, and then once we score, man, that the match opens up immensely. Like we'll get to it, but yeah, basically the score line just goes wild.
Yeah, I mean, great point. And like you talked about, like just the back and forth battle, and then with the defense, really it was a key of let's score more than the opponent. Obviously, that's how you win. But like, can you score early and then keep it? Especially if you're not going to rely as much on that back line. So in the 43rd minute, though, I was watching this on my phone and I was just like, how did I think it goes between Celentano's legs for this goal, actually, but you get a ball played in from the width that's headed across. The guy does a half volley and it just goes between Roman's legs. And it's like, okay, like it wasn't as great of a goal, but I think it was well taken with a volley. I don't know, Sam, what was your perspective of, I guess, the middle part of the game too?
Yeah, I mean, middle part of the game, obviously we get, the Kelsey goal that's first, which is nice. At the beginning of the game, I thought he barely touched that ball, the header, and it still goes in. But what a phenomenal ball to find him. He had so much space on the back post. When you look back, he had like 5, 10, like almost 10 yards of just space to like run at the goal, which was awesome. But the Philly goal, I think, Murphy and Orlando kind of get caught marking the same guy on that play. Opens up way too much, space on the wing, and just honestly a good finish by the Philly guy. Celentano probably needs to guard his near post a little bit more and gets beat between the legs, which you never want to see as a keeper. But I think right out of the gate, specifically in the middle of the game, right, you come at a halftime, and once again, this FCC team just comes out of the gate firing, right? So we've seen it multiple times this year. As of recently, we've scored a goal very, very recent after halftime. And I think it's just Kubo's smarts, right? This play, I mean, Kelsey could have done more with the ball on this play that leads to a PK, but it's Kubo's brain and the wherewithal to draw the foul. Even though I mean, you can call it a foul, call it whatever you want, but he gets him, he clips him, he gets to the ball first. He doesn't really play the ball, he plays the man, right? Which is very smart. Draws the PK, and Lucho puts it away. But yeah, the middle of the game, you get the other Philly goal, which, guys, how many times are we going to let up a goal with a set piece? Like, my goodness, like Zach and I were sitting next to each other watching this happen, and we both look at each other like, oh, there we go, another set piece goal, like unmarked on the back post. Like, good job.
I
Can't
think,
stress.
oh yeah.
Like you feel so stressed every time they're taking like the other team takes a corner or a set piece. Like something's gonna happen. Like it's inevitable.
I think that's what other teams are looking at, to be honest. It's like this team is hard to normally break down. If you look at our team and the way we're set up, if we have all of our normal starting 11, but if you look at our kryptonite this year, it's really been set pieces. So I feel like a lot of teams practice that and find, like, in this play, Obi kind of loses his guy and he's got a free header, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that's just a product of teams really finding how can we beat this team? How can we break them down? And again, it happens. Past that, we get another goal in the 60th minute by probably just the most amazing goal I've ever watched on my phone. I saw the Barreal one in person on the volley last year, but I honestly thought when I was watching it, like on the broadcast, I thought he was like playing a long ball into Kelsey, and the ball just kept going and going and going, and then they like zoom over, and all of a sudden it's in the middle of the net, and you're like, oh my gosh. So goal of the year, I think, got to be up there. Sam, you put a nice post out. Everyone go check out X or Twitter. Which goal was better? And I'll ask you, gentlemen, because I want to hear from you. Oriano's this year, or was it Barrial's from last year? Zach, I'm going to ask you first.
So is that the Barrial from the corner?
Correct.
I'm gonna have to say this one, Oriano's, in my opinion. I think I've never seen a ball hit so square and just so straight like he did. Like that thing just floated, like you said. Like the humidity in the air kept it aloft. Um, but really, I think that was goal of the year. I actually have that on my notes right there.
Sam, what about you?
Yeah, for me, oh God, it's tough because you look at Barrial's, and it was a Puskás, nominated goal. And I think it made it to like top 5 or something like that in the world. And so it's hard not to see like, hey, could this, Orlando goal have some legs to it? But for me, just looking at Barrial's, I think Barrial's was I don't know, is cleaner because of just how like fast and how hard it was hit, just upper 90 off a corner. However, seeing that happen time after time after time, and like seeing how much they actually practice it, these past 2 years, it gives more validity to what Orlando did, because you don't try that. Like, you don't do that in practice unless, it's just you messing around, right? You don't try that in a scrimmage. You don't try that in, 7v7s, whatever, during practice. So gosh, what a goal.
Well, if you look at after the game, Pat actually like comments and goes like, "Oh yeah, he's been practicing that." Like totally kidding and saying like, "Yeah, yeah, he meant to do that." And some other people are like, "Was that a cross? Was that a shot?" But dude, just unbelievable. In
Well,
my opinion, just on technicality, it's got to be hitting the ball, out of the air in the volley, upper 90. I mean, unbelievable. But boys, if you remember early on this year, on prior episodes, how many times did I say that Oriano has been so close from this shot outside and not necessarily, 50 yards this far outside, but he finally gets this one here. So I hope that really helps to open up other long distance shots for him too. So my impressions though, going into the end of the game, we get a Santos close chance. I think Sam, you made a note of this as well, but just to make it potentially 4-2 would have killed the game off, in that minute. Lucho again kind of finds away and finds an open Santos, and we just have to finish it. And then you obviously a couple minutes later get another Philly goal. So again, it's just like back and forth, 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 3-2, 3-3, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. And I'm sitting there in this room watching it like, how's this going to end? Honestly, I felt like after this, okay, it's pretty fair. Both teams are pretty even. But the best player in the MLS was on the field for us. So Sam, I'll let you take over from there.
yeah, I mean, after the San Jose game, you get 3 assists in one game, and I put out the tweet of like, all right, where do we want the statue? I need some more ideas. Obviously, like last year, we said he's getting a statue, and then now this year, it's where do you want to put it? So we got a lot of good ideas from a lot of people. Um, After this game, I mean, how many statues do you want? Like, how many cities in Ohio do you want it in? Like, that's what we're getting at, with Lucho as he rises through the legend ranks, not only in FCC but in MLS as a whole. Just an incredible player. I know after the Philly goal, Zach and I were a little dejected, and it was like, oh, geez, here we go. We're gonna walk out of here with a bad taste in our mouth. 3-3 draw, and then you saw it during extra time. Lucho, he put in these little spurts, these little runs. Obviously, like it's the end of the game, like everybody's tired. Like I get it. He's walking back. Like that's also just what he does, right? Whether you hate him or like him, but he is able to flip a switch whenever he wants, and he does it more often now that he knows, there's more at risk, right? So during his earlier FCC days, like he'd probably take more plays off because, we're not going to make the playoffs, so we're not that good, whatever. But he genuinely owns this city, and this is his city, right? So it's his job to uplift it. I thought that was just awesome.
Best celebration we've seen by him. In my opinion, I think for sure saying like this is my city is like that's what you want your captain all in, and representing and just saying I'm going to take this game over and I'm going to win. And he's a winner. And the stat came out after about how he's had, I think, 11 goal winning like contributions this year. And Miami, I think, has like 12, in total as a team or something like that. So, I mean, by himself, he's just a one man wrecking crew. But Zach, any opinion on this?
Yeah, final thoughts for me. I, I think that was one of the craziest 90 plus minutes I've like the extra time I should say. These past couple games have had enormous amount of extra time. Don't get it. Makes no sense. I think Sam and I even made that comment like how did this even get to like 8 or 10 minutes? Like it definitely hasn't been that long. Besides the point, that was the longest 10 minutes of my life, it felt like. Um, but honestly, I think like Sam said, I even wrote it down. I totally gave up and accepted a draw after Philly scored that 3-3 goal. And, like you guys said, it's why Acosta was and is the reigning MVP. You're MVP until you aren't. So in my eyes, he's still MVP. He's always going to be. But really, I mean, let's be honest. Hot and sticky midweek game, lots of goals, it was great entertainment. I was ecstatic after that. And, after the seeing the hard work, I knew Saturday was going to be very difficult. So, backline overall, I think backline needs to improve, with those second string CBs. or we need to increase our offense potential or get our goals per 90 up. So someone's gotta pick up the slack.
Yeah, I mean, good point. Again, like 4-3 is not something that we had been seeing a lot of last year. It was a lot of 1-0s because of just it seemed like they just found a way, but then the defense was solid. Obviously, it's a different situation now. But real quick before we move on to the next game, I wanted to do a couple shout outs. Sam made a mention of all of the people's suggestions for where the Lucho statue may go. So my favorite ones, I'm going to kind of real quickly just shout out. Cincy to London had said that we should put Lucho statues around town like the flying pigs, which I think is just amazing. So just maybe different Lucho hairstyles and the different
Ooh, that'd
statues
be
as
nice.
Just like little mini luchos like hidden like a
everywhere.
little
Just
garden
it'd
gnome.
be incredible. Justin Blair had a good shout for Northeast Corner over in the Plaza area. I think that is probably most likely where the Hall of Fame is going to go. Some funny ones out there too. Like I like the Michael Jordan type looking ones as well, or him like doing like my city or whatever. And then Washington Park or renaming it Lucho Park, which would be kind of funny. So shout out to Ken Hector for that as well. But yeah, a lot of good suggestions for it. I think it's a inevitability, really at this point. My final thoughts just for this game, and then I'll let Sam kind of finish his too, was just again, like you guys had mentioned, resiliency, even with, all the different pressures we had in this game, but finding ways to win. And that really is a testament to the coaching staff, to the players from being able to win in the playoffs or in high like stakes situations. But Sam, any final thoughts?
Yeah, final thoughts on this game would be the identity of the club the past 3 seasons has been a drastic change from how we played, at the beginning, right? In these one goal games, it's just been amazing to see that we don't stop. We don't stop fighting. And that's very clear because we have so many one goal victories. It's ridiculous. Like by the end of maybe we'll call it a 5 year or 10 year mark, it's going to be like FC Cincinnati has the most one goal victories in the MLS history. Like I could see that easily, because we don't give up, we don't fight, or we don't quit. But also stats on the game. This is FCC's fourth straight home game against Philly. So to Zach's point, it's nice to dominate against Philly at home, continue to do so. Acosta's goal is also the latest goal scored in FC Cincinnati regulation and all-time latest goal. And then once again, FC moves to 10-1 in 2024 campaign when we score first. So obviously it's a huge, I guess, advantage when you score first, right, Ryan? That's the whole goal, right? Score more goals than the other person.
Ultimately, that's what you got to do, man. But I like your final stat here, and I'm gonna just shout it out real quick. But it was the third time in 5 games that we scored 4 goals. So rising to the occasion, knowing that we need this moment, and to step up and to be able to do that. Again, we weren't able to do that last year. We can do it this year. Zach, to your point, consistency maybe with scoring. I mean, in this next game, we'll chat about it, getting even yet another person that scores on the season. So we'll roll into that now. The Saturday game was against New England. We won't do a super in-depth rundown of this one, I feel like, just because it was like not as fun as the Wednesday one, obviously, but 1-2 loss to New England, who honestly had been on kind of a hot streak. They'd won 3 in a row and then made this 4. But Caleb Porter, man, ugh, I hate that guy. He
Yeah.
always seems to figure something out. I think it was just honestly situational. My overall, impressions of the game, like we just touched on, is like we got to score first, especially at home. Like we need to be able to set the tone and say like, hey, I know this team is coming in, they're rested, but if we get out ahead of it, maybe does it change things? The lack of maybe familiarity in the back probably played a lot into that. So if you look at the lineup, Yedlin, Murphy, and Powell is your starting back 3 with Orshano actually on the right, Assad on the left. I love that he gets his first look because he looked great on Wednesday. But it was different, and it's a risk, and Pat's not afraid to take those. A lot last year was let's play consistency, but now injuries have forced his hand and said, you have to make these decisions, and we see where we go. But, to have maybe Hagglund off the bench or Kip Keller off the bench was interesting. I know Kip had some cramps Wednesday, so it's really a matter of managing minutes, managing injuries, figuring out which combination of players work best. And he's gotten it right more than not. So in this game, we don't, and that's okay. It's one game.
Yeah, I think to your point, it was interesting seeing, 2 out of the 3 center backs being right backs, right? So you're like, oh geez, here we go. I was thinking to myself, like, man, I haven't seen a more rotated squad since probably like 2019. Like this was wow. What an interesting squad we were putting out there. But yeah, to your point, Ryan, I think just overall, first of all, you hate to see Hagglund getting injured again, especially at the near end of the game, dude. Like it was crazy. A crazy play over by the sideline. It was kind of awkward how they just kind of continued to play after that because we were playing with 9 guys. After Obi gets a red card, we're down to 10, and then Hagglund gets out, and for the last like 5 minutes of the game, you're playing with 9 guys, trying to put something together, which didn't really put much together other than I think Orlando had a chance in the 97th minute, but yeah, I think overall you're still a game in hand against Miami, only 2 points back still, which is nice, and I'm not going to say comfortable, but it's nice to know that you lose, but you're still there. But another thing, we still don't have a clean sheet since May 15th. Not sure we will anytime soon, but it just does not feel good at all.
I don't like when you keep track of that. um, but no, you make really good points. Overall, I mean, um, I'll have to say, knowing Powell, we know how he loves to go up. So I'm surprised he actually didn't play more like this actual center because it would force him, to not go as high up. And I think, all things considered, that'd probably be the responsible thing to do. It was great to see Assad start. Honestly, I would agree with Ryan. Haven't been able to get a good showing from him yet, in my opinion. We haven't. They've all been like I think less than 30 minutes. So it was good to see him finally get a. Was it? Did he play the full 90 or did he only get like 75?
I think he went the
I think
distance.
the full
Yeah,
full
with the
distance.
distance,
Yeah,
yeah, the
Gotcha.
well,
whole
no, Halsey. I think Halsey subs him
no
off
Halsey,
actually.
yeah, Halsey
That's
came
what
in.
that's what I thought. Yeah. So I mean, but at any rate, it was good to see him get a good shift in. But really, I think this is where I have to criticize Pat a little bit. Is just and it's tough. I mean, what do you do with what you have, with the hand you play or hand you have? Subs. I think, just the management of that. I don't know if Kelsey and Dotto should have come off at halftime. I think that was kind of an interesting play. I think Haglin obviously was a good sub, um, bringing Powell off, but really, I think the strategy. I think you had Dotto and Kelsey. You could have had them for another maybe 20, 15, 20 minutes. Come off at like 60 minutes instead of halftime. Um, but the other thing is, I think Obi's been a crucial part of our kind of our back line too to help out when our back line's depleted. I think that second yellow was a little too harsh on him. I think he is a hard tackler, but Baroni, I can't say his name. Brioni, he all match he was just picking on the back line, and he just goes down for nothing. So it was kind of a frustrating call, especially the other 20 calls that we
Oh,
had,
I mean,
and
that was a theme for the game. Like it was awful.
yeah,
You look at the fouls, you look at the amount of cards that we got. The ref was soft. The ref was so
yeah,
soft. He was calling every little thing on FC, especially in the second half. It was like I think FC within like 15 minutes got 3 cards, right? Just like
yeah,
boom, boom, boom. And it was like, what are we doing? I mean, obviously Obi in that situation, like just stupid mistake that we've seen him do time and time again.
yeah.
And I you can't really like refute it, right? You're just kind of like, man, like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the tired legs, the tiredness, it gets to you. I get it. And I think the down 2 men at the 90th minute, I mean, we still honestly pulled out a draw. I think there was a couple chances there we could have really eked out another goal, but yeah. I mean, if you think about it, well rested Revs, Caleb Porter is Caleb Porter. We're always going to have a good game against him. But really, I was looking at the table night. So the whole supporters group, so West and East. So team 19 through team 27 are all within 3 points of each other. So it's like a huge list of teams that are pretty much all equal in points and parity at that point. So interesting stat, but say the least, I think we put this one behind us and move on to the next.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just from an outsider's spot, obviously, watching the game again, even watching it on broadcast, not even being in the stadium, there's moments where you see frustration, tired legs maybe contributes to it, but it's more that like the ref kind of dominated the show of the game. And I felt like our players kind of got caught up into that a little bit, which like honestly, like rightfully so. The one like handball, that we get for Orishano, and Lucho's yelling at the side ref, like, open your eyes, dude. I mean, that seems to affect us a little bit more. We've seen that in years past as well, but we just can't get caught up in that. It's easy to say. But you're taking a team that had won 3 in a row, coming into our house, a lot of confidence, not playing on Wednesday as well. Let's call a spade a spade. The Revs are not that good of a team. If we had a full lineup, like I think it's a different story. If we don't play on Wednesday, it's a different story. Whatever you want to make of this game, like it is what it is. But by the end of the year, it's going to be different. And I know that. I know this is a one-off thing again. But yeah, the frustrations there, like Sam mentioned with Hagglund, I knew he broke his leg like right away. You could tell by the mechanism. You bring the air cast on. Absolutely gutted for Nick. So we wish him the best in his recovery. An injury like that to your fibula is probably got you out for a couple months, if not longer. So we'll see what we do. And I think second part of this episode, we're going to chat about some options and where do we go from here with that situation. Before we do a trivia question here and take a break, Sam wanted to kind of mention, I tweeted actually this stat. I think I got it wrong though in the moment, but Yamil Assad became the 10th different player to score for their first goal for FCC this season. And the inaugural season, 2019, was the only season that yielded more. I think I said 2022, which also had 12, I believe, but we're ascending there, I think, and especially with rotations of people, we're probably going to go over that mark. Lucho's now had an assist in 3 straight games. He's up to 15 assists as well. Just impacting games, even at the end of the game, 90th plus minute, he's pushing, and we're 2 men down, and we honestly looked better in some moments. So like, what does that have to tell you there? If we're at full strength, it's a different story. Pat subs, I agree though with you guys. Taking guys off at half, like not giving us an opportunity, and taking that sub, not taking a sub window away, but 2 players that later on in the match, you're tired. You want to be able to sub later. I don't know what the situation is with them and cramps and whatnot, but to me that was a little bizarre. But that's my rant. I'm going to stop there. Sam, what was your trivia question you had for us?
Yeah, so trivia, the question is surrounded by, Obi and his love of being carded. How many red cards does Obi and Wobodo have in his professional soccer career, including the one on Saturday? Ryan, we'll start with you.
I'm going to say he's got 4. And I think this was being his 3rd for FCC. Maybe he's got 1 over in Turkey. I'm going to go 4.
Ryan or Zach?
That sounds really weak. I think he's better than that. I'm going to go 7.
4 and 7. All right. Well, we've got your answers. I'll give you my answer on the other side.
Hey, FC Cincinnati fans. We are pumped to share our new sponsor, Peak Cocktails.
I'm sipping on the passion fruit margarita, which is so spicy and it makes me feel like I'm on the beach.
Ooh, that sounds great. I'm drinking the blood orange spritz, which has a great subtle ginger flavor coming from its scientifically formulated recipe to promote exercise recovery enhance relaxation, and support a better night's sleep.
Ryan, that's exactly why I love them. Their cocktails are designed to fit seamlessly into your health conscious lifestyle, giving you the enjoyment of a delicious adult drink without the downsides of alcohol.
Guys, next time you are looking for that post-workout drink or an afternoon pick-me-up, grab a Peak Cocktail. Visit them at www.peakcocktails.com and use the code FLYINLION at checkout to get 20% off your first order. Zach, enjoy your drink.
And we're back. Thank you for hearing a word from our sponsor. Boys, as we get into the second half of the pod here, obviously with a roller coaster of, you got the Philly game, which was a roller coaster on the right side of it. And then, you've got the other game kind of not so right with the Revs game. Going into the not so right things, Ryan, let's start with you with the card of the week.
My card of the week is going to be toxic Twitter or X for FCC and this battle going on with the U.S. men's national team accounts. So for those not familiar, Weston McKennie is rumored to have visited FC Cincinnati. There's a lot of people out there with opinions why this is not good for the MLS. It's not good for these U.S. players. It's like, we're just trying to support our team. All right, guys. And like, this is the greatest team of all, let's be honest. But like, slow your roll on what you think is best. Like all these self-proclaimed experts, on Twitter or X about what's best for the U.S. team. Yeah, I'm not loving it. I think, especially after a loss, there was a little bit more built up energy. We could kind of direct it towards them. I hate to say, we got to support obviously our team, and anyone that looks at that differently, is wrong. I mean, club over country, in my opinion. And then once we get into country, like I'm full in for the USA, but as a player standpoint and what's best for them, that's up to each player in each situation. And I'll get into my rant about this later, but Sam, your opinion on this part.
Yeah. I tell you what, Twitter's a crazy, atmosphere when you get on there. And I mean, like you had said, I think adding the fuel to the fire that was losing to the Revs on Saturday, I don't think it helped at all. You just had, FCC fans, U.S. men's national team stands, everybody kind of just giving their take on, specifically Weston McKennie, because I don't think it has been confirmed yet or not. I know Laurel and Pat have like commented on it, but nothing has been confirmed. Everybody just thinks that it was Weston that visited.
They mentioned it on the broadcast.
They also did. So that's why I think Laurel, I think she came out and said something about the broadcast because she kept getting questions about it. And she was like, I just want to clarify that it's speculation. And it was like, okay, well, is it or is it not? Like, we kind of just want the answer. So, I mean, things are going to get interesting, as we hit July here next week. It should be fun.
I say amen to both of you. I mean, I don't see what the big deal is, honestly. Like, he's a player. He can go wherever he wants to go. I mean, I can work whatever job I want to work. I mean, let the dude play. I mean, if he feels his career is better, here, he could be tired of Europe. You never know what his personal, life and mood is, right? Like, I think it could be a good fit for him, and I think it would be. I mean, he'd kill it on FC Cincinnati. So I mean, our arms are open.
I'd take 15 million a year too, Weston. So I don't blame you at all, buddy. I'll go to you, Zach, next. What was your card of the week?
I'm gonna go with the Hagglund injury. It's heartbreaking, especially for him because I mean he just came off the hamstring. So I mean he hasn't really played many matches this season, and then he goes and breaks is it fibula? I'm not a medical guy, so
nailed it.
And I think you said it was a couple months. The sad, heartbreaking thing is his contract is up in December. So as a team, I know that's a very hard decision, but what do, right? Like he might be coming in at the tail end of the season. He may not even be, he could be out for the rest. I don't know what that kind of recovery looks like, but you got to feel for him, and I feel like that's the biggest heartbreak for me this week. Is it's honestly worse than losing to the Rebs, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I mean, he's such a big part of the team, and I genuinely think an even bigger part of the community, right? So when you're talking about a tough decision like that, Zach, I think that's what you mean, because he's a fan favorite. He's the Cincy
yeah,
kid. He wears FC on his sleeve with pride. You know, seeing him and his words on, I think it was Wednesday's press conference, or it might have been on Thursday, talking about Lucho and how much Lucho has embraced the city and how much, Hagglund loves to see it and, how this is his city now too, right? Um, gosh, the fact that his contract is up in December, we'll touch on options a little bit later, but that really gets you thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's just thing after thing. I think these bad moments come in threes, and we've hit three, in my opinion. We lost, right, in this game. We have the Miazga news, and then we have Hagglund. So three, and we're done. So, but Sam, what was your card of the week?
Yeah, my card of the week is a little along with Zach's, but I've got a problem with the soccer gods. FCC just cannot catch a break right now. Sports just in general are riddled with ebbs and flows. So it is what it is. We've been talking at the beginning of the season, we couldn't buy a goal. Now we can't stop allowing goals, right? So like and we have no one now in the back line to stop them. So we've caught the injury bug. You talked about Miazga, Hagglund, and then I mentioned yesterday, Pinto goes down in the FCC2 game as well. So now there goes a little bit of our depth in the midfield, and still no Miles back, possibly for, a month. So I definitely see another center back signing coming this summer.
It's not all doom and gloom. If we look at like the timing, it could be worse. Let's just play devil's advocate here. It could be the end of the season and all this is happening. We still have a Leagues Cup that doesn't mean a dang thing to nobody for us to
Throw your
kind of figure
FCC2
ourselves
team
out.
out for that.
Throw them out there. Why not?
yes,
Throw them out there.
yes.
Throw out all of these guys that maybe are coming in, this summer too, just to get them more experience or minutes with the team. But yeah, I mean, it's at a time where I think about, again, the Seattle Sounders is a prime example. If you look at their seasons, like they kind of ebb and flow, they lose a lot of games, but by the end of the year, they go on a run and then they peak at the right time. What's very tough for me, and I mentioned this before, is your luck at some point in MLS, it can run out or it can get spread. Last year, we were pretty lucky, to be honest, and the breaks went our way. You're in a supporter shield run now where it's almost historic. You're going against the best player of all time for the sport in this race, for the supporter shield. And you have things like this that happen, but you're still in the running. And that's what's still crazy to me. So FCC fans, it's only going to go up, I think, from here. Hopefully, hopefully our bad luck and, like Sam said, the soccer gods are going to flip on us here soon. So as we transition into that, Zach, I'm going to start with you. What was your jersey swap of the week?
Yeah, I think it's a little the player that probably may not deserve it because there are some things, but I think Yedlin, um, he played all 90 in both matches, and I don't think only a couple players I think played all 90 in both, and he was one of them. And I think he's kind of getting that Kubo bug. We keep saying bug, but Kubo bug. He's very versatile. I mean, I think he can play a lot of different positions. Backline, I guess, is one of them, and he's really picking up the slack that everybody else is picking up, right? So I'm so glad to see Yedlin, fit in FC Cincinnati. I think it seems like he's really enjoying it, and I'm glad to see his work ethic is there. I think he's going to fit right in with the team.
Dude rocks some sweet outfits pregame. I just wanted to comment on that. Like his family is all like coordinated and everything.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he's fit great into the city. He did an interview before one of the games recently. I think it might have even been the Philly game, talking about how much he's really settled in here. We haven't really needed him to be as much of a leader up until this point, but now I think you really see like you mentioned his versatility. I mean, in his career, he's probably played outside mid, outside like forward, wing back, center back. He's caught the Kubo bug. So yeah, it must be this team thing. But great point. I think that's a really good point. Sam, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, you saw how much he meant to this, back line, even in this Revs game. He had a game-saving sliding tackle to, send the goal just, into the stands, which was great. Really helped Celentano at that point in the game. And then you could see how much it means to him. I know, Zach just touched on it, but from my vantage point during that Revs game, I think there was a couple balls that he wasn't able to, get to Lucho that weren't as precise or as nice. And you could visibly see the frustration that he had. He holds himself to a very high standard. And I'm very happy to see that, he'll continue to strive for that success and won't really just stay complacent. But he needs to take a little bit easy on himself. He's putting together some good work.
Yeah, good point. I'm going to
Great
turn to
words.
you next, though, for your jersey swap.
Yeah, so my jersey swap of the week is going to be Orellano. I mean, what a player, right? Like every single game, you will see something amazing from him that you've never seen before, whether that be, dribbling, whether that be shooting, passing. Like this guy is amazing. We said earlier this year, is he going to match Barreal? And, all year we were like, and to Ryan's point, he just needs that goal from, outside the 18-yard box to give him, that Barreal feel. Well, Ryan, he answered your call and he gave you a 50-yard outside, the goalie box there. But yeah, he shows up no matter what side he's on, whether that be left or right. You play him wherever he's gonna, make it happen.
For sure. I mean, like, again, versatility and just the like wherewithal to even take that shot. Like, I don't think anyone on the team was expecting it. Everyone in the stadium was like fixated on seeing Kip Keller go down with the injury too. So I think that was part of the distraction. Shout out to Kip for that. Appreciate that distraction. So the keeper was looking at you and he put it right over your head, but that's fine. Yeah, absolutely. I think he's just been amazing this year. I don't know if he gets a shout for All-Star game. We haven't really heard where that's been, but I would imagine he's up there in the running.
Yeah, Oriano is he's such a joy to watch. I mean, he's just like Barreal in that sense. Like, just you don't know what's going to come from him. You don't know if he's going to dribble him to the line. He's going to cut in and take a shot. I mean, heck, half the time he seems like he's all the way across the field, and you're like, he receives the ball, and he just does a work of art. So definitely fun to watch him.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to go. My jersey swap for this week was Emil Assad. Like I mentioned, just proud of him for making his first start for FCC in this New England game. Brings us back, honestly, gives us a fighting chance, has a nice header and scores that goal. It was actually his last goal in the MLS was in 2021 against the Philadelphia Union, actually. So it's been a little bit for him since he's scored in MLS. But I was happy for him to actually get some minutes and to see what we can get sustained time with Lucho. We've seen in short runs how him and Lucho had been really good together. But for a longer period of time to kind of see what that interaction looks like, a lot of people had been calling for that too. So I thought that was awesome for him to actually get that start.
Yeah, he adds the depth that we need, right, on those wing backs or even in the middle. For him to walk out of this week with 2 goal contributions is very impressive. Obviously he helped Lucho with his game-winning goal, was able to kind of dissect the defense there, and then, against the Revs, what a phenomenal header by him. Because I know there were a couple players in front of him that kind of went for the ball, and him to kind of head it in very accurately was pretty good. So yeah, shout out to Assad for bringing the energy.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually had Assad as my first choice, but then I saw Ryan already chose him. I think Assad gives me shades of Junior Moreno a little bit with his play style. He really receives the ball, in the middle of the field. He obviously, I mean, I think Assad did a great job on defense as well. getting back when he needed to. Really read the game very well, in my opinion. But yeah, I think overall, I mean, he got his goal. He's got to be happy, but unfortunately, he didn't get the win with it. But great player, fun to watch, and I hope we see a lot more of him. With the later half of the season.
Yeah, we'll see what happens moving forward. And honestly, again, depth is never a bad thing, especially guys who have had experience, in the MLS and in big moments. So, a couple announcements I want to make just with FCC2, FCC Academy. I'll kind of go through it real quick. FCC2 had a 2-1 win against Huntsville City, which makes 3 wins in a row for them. They are now in second behind the Philadelphia Union, who they actually beat a couple weeks ago. So they continue to dominate, go out and support their games. I know Lucho actually was out there yesterday, so you might get a photo with him, which would be pretty cool. They're, I think, free games as well, like we mentioned before. So go out and support the young Garys. Our FCC Academy as well, though, has just been phenomenal, and we continue to see the step up this year. So Jalen Lester of the U17s represented FCC at the U17 youth camp for the U17 World Cup qualifiers for Jamaica. That's a mouthful, but yeah, awesome that we have another Jamaica guy. That's pretty cool. And they had a great season this year. The U17s made it to the round of 16. They did beat the famed FC Dallas Academy in the first round. The likes of one Weston McKennie had been a part of that academy, and I think for Pepe as well for the U.S. Team. So yeah, cool to see them. U15s actually made it pretty far. They made the semifinals of the MLS Next Cup this past week. They did lose to the Chicago Fire 3-1, but no one really cares about the Fire because they're terrible in the pro ranks. But yeah, the academy's just been killing it. I hope we can continue that. And as we look on, in the future, guys, I really want to make one of these games. I want to go to an FCC2 game, especially. I know we've been saying it for a while, but let's make it happen. I'm going to transition now, though, to I think what a lot of people want to know is, like, where do we go with this back line? Where do we go with this summer transfer window? We mentioned the Weston McKennie rumored to have possibly toured the facilities. I mean, personally, I think, like we mentioned earlier, good for him. If that's what he wants to do, great. The position of need, obviously, right now is center back, though. And Weston has played center back in the past, but he's not going to be a MLS center back. I think he's going to slide into more of a traditional midfield look that Pat has been wanting to do, possibly. In my opinion, I think you can play Weston in a lot of different ways, which we like. Is it next to Wobodo? Is it with Buka at times? Is it at right wing back? There's a lot of options with that. So 15 million is a steep price, but it shows ambition from our club, and we're the greatest club in the world, I mean, you gotta love it. Any thoughts, Sam?
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you bring in a guy like McKennie, let's say it does happen, I think you have to offload somebody like Bupenza, who has a big contract, right? You bring in Boop for that amount of money. He's not doing anything. So you got to offload something at some point. But yeah, as far as guys that we're bringing in, like I said, we need to look at a center back. We were looking at Twitter and had a couple shouts. I know we had saw the likes of Andrew Wiebe had said something about Matt Hedges would be like a good fit because he seems to be a surplus at Austin right now. And he's got U.S. men's national team experience, and he'd be a good guy to have solidified in the back line. I happen to have a good connection with the guy himself, but Ryan, you got something?
Well, I was just going to mention they actually looked at Matt Hedges prior to Matt Miazga. So it was somebody that they had on their radar. It's somebody that Pat had circled out to. He actually was brought in to tour the facilities. We had seen it on the big board as well. Sam, I'm kind of disappointed you didn't tell him. What are you doing, man? Why didn't you come? But maybe you shoot him a text now and say, Matt, get your butt over to FCC.
Yeah, I know. I've got to see what I can do. Strings to pull here.
Your connection, though, was just with working with Sojoti, though, right? Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So Matt is hopefully one guy that we're looking at. John Brooks would be the other. I think we mentioned that last episode as well. But yeah, I mean, there's got to be some sort of communication going on with Albright and these other GMs, in this league. Is it coming from abroad? I mean, it's a perfect time, honestly, if we're going to lose a lot of center backs, go out and find one, in the European market if we need to as well. But the flexibility of things is what gets complicated. Miazga, obviously, we're not really sure. He's going in to have surgery on his knee. It sounds like it wasn't very conclusive with the test that he had. In my opinion, that means the MRI didn't show what they clearly wanted to see and they wanted more information. You go into surgery, you see what that looks like. You put him on the season ending list, which opens up his salary spot, and then we can bring in another center back. I think that will be the big question. At minimum, you're going to bring in a veteran CB, but whether or not you bring in another one is a product of what it looks like with Miazga. I think London Agato might get some minutes now. We might see him. And then Joey Apinonu might potentially be called back from loan. I think that might be an interesting shout as well. Zach, any thoughts on any of this news?
Oh man, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, like Sam said, Bupenza. I mean, I think that's a sunk cost at this point. So that'll probably be offloaded. And then, I mean, we don't know what options are, but Obi's contract expires end of June. So can we take bets on if he gets offloaded too? I mean, that's a ton of money there, in Bupenza and Obi. That's a lot of money to work with. So, I mean, do we get someone who's maybe a little bit more youth, but has the legs to sustain a little bit more playing? I don't know, but I think there's a lot of options, and I think there's some flexibility on how we can pick up some players. I think it's going to be a busy window for us for sure, but who we pick up is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like it's exciting though, and especially in the middle of the season to kind of see where do we go? What do we do with this? To your point about Obi, with the way that Lucho plays in the midfield position, at attacking mid or forward, if you want to call him a third forward, you need somebody that can cover ground, and Obi does that better than anyone in the league, in my opinion. So we're gonna lose that potentially. We need to bring somebody in that can do that. And does Weston cover that ground if that's the person that they're looking at? Right now is the peak market for Obi such that, hey, we can't refuse to sell him at this point. Has he reached that maximum? Don't go and look at his last game, other teams, if that's what you want to do, but look at the trends and how he's kind of turned this team around. I would be very sad personally, just because I love Obi and what he does. But yeah, I mean, you have to look at from a team standpoint, a financial standpoint, and say, what is the best for this team to win a championship, honestly. And I think the fluidity in the midfield has been so good that it's hard for me to change that, in my opinion.
Too many changes at once kind of thing.
Yeah, it'd be tough. I mean, you need to have solid guys in front of your back line, especially if your back line isn't as together as you want it right now. Yeah. So moving on, as we go to this next game, we have a game this coming Saturday at FC Dallas. I think there's only one game between these two. Back in 2019, we lost 3-1, but that's been a minute. I think that FC Dallas has had a crazy year, to be honest. They brought some new guys in the offseason. I'm pretty sure that they did lose their coach this year, too. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they did it. Some point, they, from my estimation, should have a solid game at home. I think that they historically have been pretty good at home. And if we look at our road form, though, that's what encourages me. I think we've been honestly a little bit better on the road. Sam, any thoughts from your standpoint?
No, yeah, I mean, I actually had some buddies of mine that were at their last game at the Sounders game, which oh, what a heartbreaker for the FC Dallas fans. They were up 2-0 for 75 minutes, and then the Sounders scored 3 goals in the final 25 minutes of the game to win it. So very heartbreaking on that. So they're coming off of that. I think it'll be interesting. I want to see what you guys are thinking, because with as much of a depleted squad as we have, what kind of back line do you think we're going to see?
You, all things considered, too, you got to remember Oriano just picked up his 5th yellow too. So I think him, Obi. It's going to be a really interesting squad that we're going to be putting out. But I think it's going to be Murphy, Keller, Powell in the back.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And then do they look at like flipping Powell and Yedlin at some point? Because those guys can kind of flip out. Guys, we didn't even mention it, but do we look at Ray Gaddis? Does he come back for another season, half season? What do you think? But yeah, I agree not to be overlooked as well as, Obi's out this game. Pinto might be out for this game too. We're very thin right now. So they're going to have a Steven Jimenez appearance probably at some point.
Hey, shout out. It was his birthday yesterday, today?
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. I think we're going to go into Dallas and probably get a 1-1 draw is my opinion. Sam, what about you?
Yeah, I'm thinking our depleted back line gives up a 1 goal at the beginning. But then our road win resilience brings back another goal, so I'll go 1-1 as well.
I was going to be a optimist. I was going to say 2-1. I think Boop's back, Kelsey's going to be in. I want to see those two up front gel, or I just want to see them like play together. It'll be really fascinating to see. So 2-1.
Yeah, no, again, shout out Bupenza was back for this past game for, 5 minutes probably, but still, I don't think they originally probably planned to play him potentially. I don't know. Sounds like maybe not, but here we are, and we kind of need him. The striker position now is like surplus. I think Corey Baird hopefully will be back somewhat shortly as well. But yeah, your midfield's a little bit thin. Your defense is very thin. Yuya Kubo for center back for this game, maybe. Anyone? Any takers?
Legit.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? I mean, we were joking about it before, but we might see it now. But yeah, I really hope that in this game we just show again fight. I think as long as you have the MVP of the league on your team, like you're always going to have a fighting chance to win, and he's going to will this team to win. And if you look at the offense, there's not a lot of changes from there. So to your point, like let's create these chances. Let's just score more, let's get 3 or 4 and hope that the back line doesn't concede that many. But Sam, let's hear this trivia answer.
Yeah. So to recap what the trivia question was, is how many red cards does Obi Nwobodo have in his professional soccer career, including the one he picked up on Saturday? So the answer is actually 3. So he had 2 playing in the Turkish league, but if you take note and look at the past games, all of his other suspensions have been because of yellow card accumulation, never because of a second red in the MLS. This is actually his first red card in the MLS.
No way. That's his first red in the MLS?
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, maybe they've like taken him out before he could get a second yellow or something in the other games.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of those things where I think in past, last year and this year we've gone like, okay, guys, like how many yellows does Obi have right now? Because it's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, it'll be very interesting, like we mentioned. We're excited that at least this team has shown good road form again. We're optimistic. Maybe we get Matt Hedges before Saturday's game. I know FC Dallas was his former team, so it would be very interesting. I doubt it moves that quickly. But interleague trades can happen, I think, pretty much at any time. I just don't know when that process is going to get going. But I think we have some really good shout outs there. Any closing thoughts though from you guys?
I just want to see, we get to see newer faces, right? The next couple games, and gives other people opportunities to play and show, what they're worth. So I'm excited to see some of these young guys, possibly step up.
Let's keep trucking, in the words of Zach.
Let's keep it going, boys. Thanks to everyone for listening. We'll be back next week, but like, comment, subscribe, follow us again, Twitter, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you find your podcasts, and we'll see you next time.